Welcome. We are in a crisis in this country. 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese, and it's getting worse, not better. This is all about the fast food culture. Uh, most fast food meals are more than the daily calorie count that a person should have. It's just unfathomable that the US government is subsidizing the very foods that are creating this healthcare crisis and not subsidizing or subsidizing to a tiny infinitesimal fraction the fruits, vegetables, nuts, and grains that are what people should be eating, what nature says people should be eating. So we've got a crisis that is not only a personal tragedy for the people who are suffering from obesity, and severely overweight. 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese, as I said, but also this is affecting our budget deficit. Taxpayers are paying for all of this. Okay? It's not cheap. Look at the woman who is offering the solution right there. She's known as nutritionist Deepa and also Deepa the Dietitian. And we are so honored to have her here on Unchained TV, Voice America podcast today because she has solutions. So Deepa, tell us, first of all, you have so many titles associated with your name. It gives you a lot of credibility. What is your fundamental message to people who are suffering right now and who really don't know a way out?
The fundamental message is we learn to eat natural, whole, plant-based foods, period. Okay? Because we have nutrition, we have flavor, and by eating more plant-based foods, specifically whole plant-based foods, we are not only doing justice to our bodies, but also to the planet. So that is the fundamental message. The tricky part of doing that is though how do we retrain our bodies and retrain our brains to start liking this food, because as you just showed, uh, how our society or our culture has made it easy or easier to go for unhealthy food. So we have to find a solution together because we have created this problem as a society.
Now, is it your contention that fast food is addictive? I drive down the main street near where I live. I live in Los Angeles, but it could be said when I was in Texas, it was the same thing. When I was everywhere you go, it's the same thing. It's a miracle mile, and there's one fast food joint after the other, and there's lines around the block. And that, to me, is the fundamental problem. They are mostly supplying meat and dairy products, cheeseburger and a shake, chicken, nuggets, and people are gobbling these things down. And, there's consequences. There's consequences for eating that way, especially if you eat that way on a regular basis. It's one thing, a treat, maybe once every couple of months, but people are living off this fast food. And you've made the case that there's an addictive component because it's packed with three things: sugar, salt, and fat. Three things that my understanding is we are biologically pre-programmed to crave to get us through times of famine. But now it's creating an obesity crisis.
Absolutely. As if anybody here is familiar with the Pleasure Trap book that is written by evolutionary psychologist Dr. Doug Lyell, he explains this phenomenon really well. Basically, what has happened is, as human beings, we have three main instincts. Okay, and those three instincts are to go after high caloric foods in the environment, save energy, conserve energy, and avoid pain. So everything that we do is to fulfill or is out of these three instincts. Now, look what has happened over a period of time, that our instincts have stayed the same. The instinct of going after high caloric food is a very natural instinct because uh, we lived or we evolved through the environment of scarcity of food. So it was that is so that's why our brain and our biology and our chemistry, our DNA, that is designed or has evolved to constantly look for high caloric foods. Then the second thing is to avoid pain. Okay, our brain is constantly seeking for ways to avoid pain, and the third is to conserve energy. uh, Anything that is going to save us from wasting more energy, because we lived in an environment where we didn't know if we are going to get the next where we are going to get the next meal. So to me, so these three instincts have stayed the same, but the environment has changed significantly, not little bit but significantly.
Yes, we've got some callers coming in.
Hmm.
Kim in Santa Monica, your question or thought for nutritionist Deepa, aka Deepa the Dietitian.
Hello. Hi. Um, yes, I'm Kim in Santa Monica, and I was wondering. You can hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, sorry. Yeah. So when I first went vegan almost 10 years ago, I immediately lost weight, even though I didn't need to. So I proudly tell people that, and encouraging them to go vegan. And then lately, of course, now there's so much junk food available as a vegan, which I'm happy about that. I live in the big city, and yeah, there's plenty of junk food to eat, and I enjoy trying it. But then obviously I've gained some weight back, and I just don't know how to stop eating all the junk that's available and get back in line with my preferred weight. Any suggestion?
Yes, of course. So if you just continue listening to the second part of what I'm going to explain, where we know that our instinct is to go after high caloric food, save energy, and avoid pain. Now, to meet this, to but the environment has changed, right? So you were eating the standard American, the sad um, American diet, which was high in salt, sugar, and fat. From there, you went to the vegan diet, which is much better in terms of not having inflammatory animal protein. But then, through the evolution of other vegan junk food, your reliance on that salt, fat, and sugar combined hasn't gone away, because it's still giving your brain the same dopamine high. It's still making it's still kind of feeding into that addiction to get that temporary high. So when such in this situation, you need to work harder on your environment instead of working on yourself and saying somehow I'm going to ride the tide here and have willpower to not stop by and eat my vegan cookies. No, that's not how we are going to do it. We are going to make the environment very supportive. Get rid of any junk that you have, which is a combination of salt, sugar, and fat. Start avoiding that. Start remove it from your environment, because if it's not around you, it's not going to be in you.
And
Okay.
she says, yes, I'm addicted sometimes. But you're absolutely right. If I take a container of vegan ice cream back and I put it in my fridge, it's calling out to me, eat me. I'm here in the freezer. Please, don't eat me here. Of course, if it's not there, you can't eat it. All right, we've got another caller, Sarah in Atlanta. Your question or thought?
Hi, I have a question. Is there a way that people can still eat really healthy vegan food and still be able to maintain their healthy weight? I mean, is there like a book out there?
So, so there are plenty of books out there to how to be a healthy vegan. But again, you have to redefine veganism. The only way we will lose weight on a vegan diet, which is whole food, plant based. Okay.
Yes. Explain what whole food plant based is, because frankly, For example, I'm what they kind of sometimes call an ethical vegan. I got into this movement because I love animals and I don't want to see 80 billion animals systematically tortured and killed every year, which is what we're doing now, killing more animals in one day than all the human beings who have died in all the wars in human history in one day. But as I got deeper into the movement, and particularly during the pandemic, when I didn't want to go into stores, I started ordering from Farm Fresh to You that they deliver vegetables. That's when I really started eating whole food plant-based, because every week this big basket of vegetables would show up, and that was my alternative. And guess what? I found out that I liked it. I found out that I enjoyed it. I found out that I had more energy. I found out that I was able to keep, while I've always struggled with my weight, I was able to keep it more toward the lower end of where I want than having it yo-yo up to where I didn't like it at all. And not to say it's not still a struggle, but that was my breakthrough, was the fact that I was at home for a year and a half and having vegetables delivered to my door. It was kind of like whole food plant-based was shoved down my throat, but then I decided I really like it.
So why do you think, Jen, that happened? That happened because whole plant-based foods, which is your whole grains, your plant proteins such as beans, lentil, peas, and tofu, then your fruits and vegetables, and small quantity of nuts and seeds. All these foods contain one important nutrients which goes just beyond your calories and fat and protein. These foods are extremely high in fiber. Okay, and fiber is the one that we need to up to get rid of the existing fat in your body. And I'm going to show you what that existing fat means. Okay, for example, I'm holding a test tube here. Okay, this is how much fat is in 10 crackers. And these are vegan rich type of
Hey,
crackers.
let's not knock veganism. They're in 10 crackers, period. 99%, 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese, and a tiny fraction of them are vegan. And the vegan obesity is extremely rare amongst vegans. Well, let's just talk about crackers. Go ahead.
So then you can take crackers, and this is how much fat is in any processed food, vegan or non-vegan. How about that? So that fat sits, it's what I call it is junk in your trunk. And then we need that fiber that Jane just talked about, that she's getting it through the whole grains and fruits and vegetables and plant protein. So in order to lose weight, you need to make sure that you are not consuming fat. Okay, you are not eating overly sensational, like overly seasoned options, because eating extra salt is going to make you eat 20% more.
Whoa.
So okay, so that's why one trick I tell my patients to do is, put the salt on top of your dish versus cooking with it.
Oh, that's a really good point. And I just want to reemphasize that. Put your salt on top of the dish. Don't cook with it. But we've got another caller here we want to go to. And it's Shelly in Ventura. Your question or thought for Deepa the Dietitian, aka Nutritionist Deepa.
Thank you so much for taking my call. I'm much like the first caller, where I went vegan 17 years ago, lost 25 pounds. Then I started eating the junk food coming out, and I'm older, 64, so I gained weight. And now I've lost 24 pounds eating more whole foods, plant-based, always plant-based. But my thing is intermittent fasting. 16/8 is working great for me, but I get so hungry at night. And do you have a suggestion for, it's just ridiculous. I get hungry and I shouldn't be hungry. I've had plenty to eat.
Okay, well, that's a very good question, because that is what gets people in trouble, and then they stop fasting, is because of that extreme hunger. So remember that your eating window contains adequate amount of carbohydrates, starches, and I'm talking about wet starches. such as oats, whole grains like quinoa, rice, potato, sweet potatoes. These are considered as whole grains and wet starches. So make sure during the day you are eating adequate amount of these wet starches. Don't just survive on fruits and vegetables. Fruits and vegetables are extremely important for our system. They make us feel full, but they don't satisfy us. Okay, there is a difference between feeling full and feeling satisfied. You want to be satiated, you want to be satisfied, and satisfaction comes only when we eat starch-based whole food plant-based diet. So make sure that you are eating enough starches during the day.
Wow, well, that's interesting. So they've demonized. I think it's pretty much the meat and dairy industry has tried to demonize starches, but in fact, well, Chef AJ is a famous example. She lost 50 pounds eating potatoes. So you can eat these whole grains that give you that satiation, like, yeah, I've had something. And it's part of, I'm learning listening to you. We've got yet another caller, Nilofar in Dallas, Texas. Your question or thought for Deepa the Dietitian, aka nutritionist Deepa.
Hi. It's very clear in order to eat healthy and vegan, it's the whole food plants, one has to expend time and energy in the kitchen. In today's era and today's culture in this country, it seems like no one wants to do that for one reason or the other. What is the best advice that one can give to these people when we're trying to encourage them to go both vegan and healthy when they don't want to spend any time in the kitchen? For example, are there ready meals that we can suggest to them, etc.? Thanks.
Absolutely. So we have a choice to make here. Either we spend not a whole lot, maybe 30 minutes. If you plan your meals properly, all you need is 30 minutes per day to fix your meal. Okay. So when it comes to time, I always ask my patients or my clients, are you willing to spend 30 days, maybe 3 times a week, or at the most 4 times a week in the kitchen, or countless hours going to the doctors and to the hospital? One way or the other, we are going to spend time. But spending time in the kitchen is going to lead us to better quality of life. I have and more exciting life. I have yet to see a person who is excited about going to the hospital and saying, "Oh my God, that was the best time I ever had in my life." Okay, so we have to prioritize what we want out of our life. Number two, you can start with frozen vegetables. You can start with canned beans, no salt added, or even if you buy low sodium canned beans that can be rinsed, you can start with that. You can start with pre-chopped, pre-cut vegetables. Then look for plantaceous certified products which fit the criteria of salt and oil. And then the last option is, there's a company called Whole Harvest, and they have a whole food plant-based meal kit, frozen meal kit service. So you can always subscribe to that and kind of, I use them as my plan C. So I always have something in the refrigerator or in the freezer from them in case I'm completely out of time or running around or coming back from traveling. And I always make extra and freeze. So these are very simple options, uh, which make it easy for us to stay on track.
Wow, boy, this has hit a nerve. We got more and more callers. I just want to show you just some of the things that have arrived from, and I'm not doing an ad for Farm Fresh to You. I happen to love it, but there's plenty of other delivery services that deliver vegetables. I would not normally be eating red cabbage and eating spinach, but when you get to check it off and then it comes to your door, and like I said, I started during the pandemic because I didn't want to go into stores, and then I discovered I really liked it. And, as far as time, I realized the amount of time it takes me to go on Grubhub and order something and then have it come with all the packaging that makes me feel guilty, or drive out somewhere to get something, it's easier. It's actually faster just to spend 20 minutes in the kitchen. And a lot of times I can make 2 days worth, not with a regular salad that wilts, but with something like spinach, you can make 2 days worth of a salad with tofu and eat half of it and put it in the refrigerator for the next day. So actually, I have found, just from trial and error, it's not more time consuming to cook. And then something else happened that blew my mind. I was having fun in the kitchen. I enjoyed it. Like, I look forward to it. I make my plant-based food for my dogs, and then I'm making my own food. And I realized this is a nice little habit. I'm enjoying it. I had approached it from, this is drudgery. This is something I have to do. Ugh. But then I was like, now I'm kind of like, this is fun. This is my new lifestyle. All right.
Because Jen, also remember that this is, when you eat right kind of food, it gives you that energy. The right nutrients are flowing through. It actually making you motivated. You know, a lot of people don't feel like cooking because they don't have energy, because they're eating dead food. So by making sure that your arteries and nerves are filled with nutrient dense blood, really, and the nutrient density of your diet is going to improve only when you eat unprocessed, animal free, whole food, plant based diet.
All right, we've got yet another caller, Michelle in Los Angeles. Your question or thought about the secret to weight loss. Hi,
thank you so much. I'm getting so many great tips and things I didn't know. I know you're reinforcing. So I'm always trying to encourage my friends to go vegan. And a lot of times they're very health conscious, but they're weight conscious. And they keep telling me, I can't go vegan because I can't eat the starches like the potatoes and the quinoa and the rice and the beans. And I try to explain to them, as you were talking earlier, that you need those carbs for your brain, and that if you're eating vegan, it all bounces out. But can you explain that? Is there an easier way to explain to them that, like, eating the carbs is something they're going to need and not just protein? Because people are all on that keto kick.
Of course, of course. So the way to explain that is that as human beings, carbohydrates is the preferred source of energy for our brain and for our body. Okay, it's not protein, it's not fat, it's only carbohydrate, that or the sugar or the glucose from the carbohydrate that our brain can use to survive, to think. Okay, that's why when somebody doesn't feel right, we don't go and put piece of cheese or chicken or carrot in that person's mouth. We go and give anything that is sugary, because that's the only way that your brain is going to start thinking. So we have to feed our brain right kind of fuel. Number two, it's in the similar vein for your physical energy to that you need for your to run your, which is also for your metabolism and for your functioning, comes only from carbohydrates. Every culture on this planet uses carbohydrate as a main source of energy. Our civilization would not have survived eating only protein. It's just not possible. Carbohydrates are contain the slow acting carbs. Number one, that is one nutrients. They contain enough amount of protein. This one medium potato, okay, I have it right here. This one medium potato contains 4.5 grams of 4.5 grams of protein. You eat 2 baked potatoes, you get your 10 grams of protein without any fat. The skin of the potato is going to contain potassium. It has small amount of vitamin C. It has slow acting carb. What more we want? And just have them try to eat. Tell them that, you know, they can try just start eating small amount of carbohydrate. they are going to feel so much more satiated and happy, and their brain is not going to be foggy. And most importantly, where we are seeing the problem with keto diets is in short term, people do lose weight, but long term, they are ending up with high cholesterol, high blood pressure, mental fog, low energy, and of course, weight gain.
I'm getting
So-
something from my fridge. I'm getting something from my fridge because I want to show you something that I think is important. Sorry to put everybody on hold there for a second, but okay. There's also the idea of sometimes things get old. Like I started this, 2020, ordering this in. And so, after a while, I was like, oh, I'm getting tired of the chopping more than anything else. So I just recently purchased, it's not a Cuisinart, but it's like one of those because I can never get the Cuisinart to work. No offense, Cuisinart. But now what I did was, it may not look so good, but I chopped it up real thin. You can see how thin it is.
Yeah, it's almost like rice.
Exactly. And it was fun. It took like 10 seconds. I just put it in and there it was. And then I did some onions and then I put a little veggies. But the thing that I noticed that was so fascinating is I couldn't eat as much of it. Like when it was chopped in big pieces, you could have a big salad. But then once I chopped it up in little pieces, I just wanted like this much. Is there any explanation for that?
So our appetite regulation happens because we have receptors in our digestive tract. Okay, and these receptors are activated when we eat. They are called stretch receptors, which are going to get stretched when we eat food which has volume. Okay, and then you have caloric receptors, and they are going to get activated when we reach a certain caloric level. The volume receptors are stimulated when we eat large volume of food, okay, which also happens to have just enough calories. That is your bliss point. That is your happy spot there. So when you eat this salad, because of the fiber content, because of the water content, it has enough volume, okay, as well as but just eating that salad is not going to keep Jen full for too long or happy for too long. She has to add some carbohydrate with it. So the ideal meal for Jen would be if she eats this salad along with this baked potato, or maybe mix in some quinoa or wild rice, and then now we are talking a complete meal. Okay, and just chopping it down just allowed you to increase the content of it, because now you have more food in the small space.
Oh, maybe that was it. Because I thought I can't really eat all this, and it's because yes, when you chop it down, you're taking a lot and chopping it down. So yeah. Oh, thank you for that. All right. Well, look, we are going to take a very short break on Voice America Radio, but we're staying live on the Unchained TV streaming network. We're also on all socials. We're on Facebook. We're on LinkedIn, we're on YouTube talking about the secret to easy weight loss. If you're watching this on social media, please share out. And what we're going to do is we take a brief break on Voice America Radio, which we always thank for allowing us to have these important discussions about plant-based solutions to the world's problems, is tell you a little bit about Unchained TV. So again, I want to let you know, we'll be back in a second on Voice America Radio. So let's tell you a little bit about Unchained TV. You can see it's on all Samsung TVs, and you can see it right there behind me. So I can just show you that we've got a lot of content here that is very exciting. You can see many, many different shows. We've got about 1,500 shows here that I can show you. 1,500 shows, adding new content all the time. So what we urge you to do is you can download this on any Samsung TV. All Samsung smart TVs, they have a smart hub. You just put in Unchained TV and it's right there. Just really life-changing documentaries and cooking shows and travel shows, music videos, talk shows, and it's all 100% free. We are a 501c3 nonprofit. I do not take a salary. This is basically a large group of volunteers who do all this. People donate their content to get the word out because the mainstream media is not telling our story. The mainstream media is not offering the solutions to, for example, the obesity crisis, which is preventable. And not to mention the world hunger crisis. 1 out of every 11 people on this planet are suffering from hunger or malnutrition, while in the Western world, there's an obesity crisis because we're taking most of the food that we grow and feeding it to farmed animals, 80 billion farmed animals, which is an extremely inefficient food technology, considered really the most outdated food technology on the planet. There is no need to take all these nutrients and process them through an animal and then eat them when we can go directly to the nutrients. But unfortunately, if you look at advertiser-based mainstream media, they're not telling that story because look at the advertisers, okay? So I urge you to download Unchained TV. If you have an Apple TV device, you can download it. If you have a Roku device, if you have an Amazon Fire Stick, you can download it on all of these devices, and it's also on your phone. So all you have to do is go to your app store and voila, you can get Unchained TV right on your phone. There's, again, 100% free. And
you are listening to Unchained TV.
You
To
email-
reach the show today, call in to 1-866-472-5788. That's 1-866-472-5788. You may also send an email in to jane@unchainedtv.com. Now, back to the show.
Welcome back, people. We're having a fascinating conversation that really affects most Americans because 2/3 of Americans are overweight or obese. And we're not fat shaming people. I know there's a lot of emotion and politics around this issue. I was even reading up, even though I believe it was the American Medical Association said it's a disease. Then other people say, well, you can't say that. But what we can say is it's a crisis. It's not healthy. I don't come from judging anybody. I'm a recovering alcoholic, 28 years sober. So I know all about addiction. I even wrote a book called Addict Nation, how we live in an addictogenic culture because there's no better customer than an addict. An addict will come back over and over again. And what does that mean for people? Money in their pocket. But here's the truth. You have to start thinking for yourself because they don't care if you get obese. They don't care if you get heart disease. They don't care if you get cancer. In fact, the meat and dairy and pharmaceutical industries are basically one and the same. Because if people were healthy, they wouldn't need stent operations. They wouldn't need all these statins and cholesterol lowering drugs. So we're talking to an expert, Deepa the Dietitian, aka nutritionist Deepa, who has some really good tips where you can make these changes without sacrifice. I mean, just that one tip. Don't put the salt in the food while you're cooking it. If you like salt, just sprinkle a little on top right there. That's worth the price of admission. I know we have a caller, but let's go to the caller and then we're going to go to something called inflammation, which is a key part of this puzzle. Our next caller is Annie from Sherman Oaks. Annie.
Oh, hi. Thank you for the show. Hey, Deepa, great advices you have there. I love it. So what do you think? I like using a lot of herbs. You think that's great? Herbs and spices. How does that play a role in our weight loss or our nutrition? Can you please talk a little bit about that as well?
Great
in
question.
addition to
Great
maybe
question.
Nutritional yeast and all. Thank you.
Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you, Annie. So the herbs and spices are nature's pharmacy. Okay, that's how powerful they are when it comes to medicinal value along with the flavor. So go crazy with herbs and spices, because remember, our brain is craving for flavor. It is too bad that we have gotten into this culture where we have learned to get our flavor, so to speak, flavor from salt, sugar, and fat. So if you get rid of it, then give your brain what it used to, what it is familiar with, what it is used to having, which is your herbs and spices. Now be careful. Don't mix those herbs and spices with added oil. That's where people go wrong. If you like Indian food, for example, Indian food is fantastic, full of flavor, but most Indian food is soaked in oil. So again, if you stay away from added oils and just ride on the herbs and spices, and the nutritionalist, of course, is going to give you, specifically nutritionalist is going to give you that salty flavor, the little bit of a cheesy flavor that some people miss. So short answer is yes, Annie, please use herbs, spices, and nutritionalist.
And Miriam Shira says, I feel we all have some kind of food addiction. Absolutely. I would say because we live in an addictogenic culture, we are encouraged. Look at the TV commercials. I mean, these are movie directors who know how to pull every trigger. They associate fast food, cheeseburgers, and dairy milkshakes with everything from family values, upward mobility, sex appeal, all these things that it has nothing to do with. And, you know, I have a background, my family background is in the advertising business. Do you think any person who's putting together one of these commercials ever asked, is this a good product? Hell no. That never comes up in the conversation. They get the contract and all they want to do is put together a dynamite ad commercial that is going to seduce everybody into buying the product. So, you know, we're talking about pushers. We're talking about a nation of pushers. And let me just say one other thing about the TV commercials, which are so disgusting. I can't even sit down and watch the news and eat dinner because everybody's got horrible side effects, you know, that are too gross to mention even on the show. And you're trying to have dinner. It's like, and it seems like they're trying to encourage everybody to really associate with their illness. I've got this problem. I've got this problem. I'm going to ask my doctor for this pill. I'm going to ask my doctor for this pill. No, doctors, you're not supposed to go to your doctor and ask for a pill. A doctor's supposed to diagnose you and tell you what you need. We have turned this whole world upside down, and it's all ka-ching for the money. Yes, go ahead, Deepa.
So, Jen, we don't have food addiction. We have junk food addiction.
Oh.
Big difference.
Yes.
Because we know, people say, oh, I'm an emotional eater, right? Well, I have seen people eat cookies or ice cream when they are happy, when they are sad, when they are mad, whether they are celebrating something, whether they are sleepy, whether they have woken up from sleep, whether they have not gone to vacation, whether they have gone to vacation. Okay. People are addicted. People are junk food addict, not food addict. Human being is not supposed to be addicted, not supposed to have food addiction.
Well, let me give you an example. As I said, knock on wood, one day at a time. Let me find some wood around here. I'll knock on wood for you. I haven't had a drink in 28 plus years. But it's the same thing with alcohol. When you're addicted to alcohol, it's raining, I better have a drink. It's sunny, I better have a drink. I had a terrible day at work, I have to have a drink. I had a great day at work. My boss loves me, I have to have a drink. Any excuse on the planet. So you're absolutely right. I wasn't addicted to water. I was addicted. I you know, there's no cure. So once a pickle, never again a cucumber. I am a recovering alcoholic, not recovered. All right. I want to play a clip that you have in one of your many videos. And by the way, Deepa's going to have a show on Unchained TV, so you can watch her soon with a lot of very intricate tips and hacks. But let's play this suggestion that involves the word inflammation. I'm very confused about inflammation, and I think most of our viewers and listeners are too.
So if you are looking for quick ways, some few tips to kickstart your healthy eating, then hang in here with me, because that's exactly what I'll be discussing today. What is one ingredient that you can start adding to your diet, and what is one ingredient you can start removing from your diet to reduce the inflammation, improve your blood sugar numbers, reduce cholesterol, and of course lose some weight using these strategies. That's what we will be discussing today. So let's see how to kickstart healthy eating. Number one day at a time. Go slow. First, get rid of the most obvious, most inflammatory foods from your diet, such as red and processed meats, dairy. Gradually transition to more plant-based diet. Again, red meat, processed meat, dairy, it's an added fat is going to be the most inflammatory foods in your diet.
What is inflammation? People have explained it to me a dozen times and I keep forgetting.
Okay, so inflammation, think of inflammation as slow burn. Okay, something has started the fire. The disease condition has started some sort of a fire on a cellular level. So it's a slow burn that is happening in the background, that is called as chronic inflammation. And think of it this way: if there is anything burning, and then if you add a drop of fat, it doesn't matter if it's extra virgin olive oil, drop of olive oil, or if it's organic ghee or grass fed butter. Fat is a fat is a fat, and fat is bad for fire. So if you have inflammation, chronic inflammation slash chronic low grade fire going on in your system, it doesn't make sense to continue to add the fat to the fuel. Okay, now almost 100 plus diseases are inflammatory: obesity, heart disease, diabetes, arthritis, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcerative colitis being at the top of the list. Okay, but remember, these are not exactly diseases. Our disease is bad food. Eating poor quality food is our disease. All these things that I just mentioned are the symptoms. So going to the doctor, like Jane was saying, and getting a medication, or just switching from frying pan into the fire with, instead of eating 7 cookies, I'm just going to eat 3 cookies. These solutions are not going to work. They are not going to reduce that they are not. It's not going to shed that fire, which is your inflammation. So basically, inflammation is a low grade fire, and adding salt, sugar, and fat to this fire is a bad idea.
Okay, and we've got another caller. We've got Michael in LA. Your question or thought for Deepa the Dietitian, aka Nutritionist Deepa.
Yes, hi. I actually went vegan many years ago for the animals, but since then I've learned a lot about the health benefits, as you guys are discussing today. But my question is, I have a sweet tooth, and I was always wondering if stevia, which is plant-based, is that actually better than regular sugar for you?
Okay, so let's take a step back and try to understand, why do we even have cravings? Okay, I'm super glad that you are a vegan. Okay, you have taken a major step. Kudos to you. But if you are not a starch eating, a carbohydrate eating vegan, like I was mentioning it in the beginning of this show, if you are not eating enough whole grain carbohydrates, then your brain is not satiated. And remember what I said, your brain will always go for sweet when it is starved for energy. Okay, so my recommendation to you would be, make sure you are eating those potatoes and sweet potatoes and rice and quinoa, beans, lentils at each meal, or even in between meals. And then you will notice that you are satiated, you are full, and you will not have cravings.
That's really interesting because I also have a sweet tooth. And yeah, sometimes you think, well, do I want to slice up a potato and put it in the air fryer and have chips, which you can do with, I know you say no oil. What my solution was to get a spray oil can and then just spray it. Just like you said, put salt on the top.
Yeah.
I spray a little oil on the top to radically reduce the amount of oil. Before I got hip to the whole oil thing, I was like, oh, oil. And that's thousands of calories.
Correct.
You can have, chocolate cake for the amount of oil people are just mindlessly pouring on their food. So now I just use a spray. I wish I could run there and get the spray can. I use the spray. But what I want to get back to is the inflammation. So I really now I have a visual. Inflammation is like a low-grade fire that's building in your system, and the fuel to the fire is sugar, salt, fat. So I get that. But what does inflammation do to the vessels in your body?
Okay. So what happens is, slowly this fire is going to start affecting different layers of your arteries and veins. Okay. And that's how the heart disease starts. Okay. The plaque formation, and I can show you right here. I have a model. This is how your arteries are supposed to look.
Hold it up, please. Hold it up. Yeah, there you
go. Without any inflammation or anything. Okay, there is no injury. Now, when you have eaten or a blood that is filled with inflammatory food or components of inflammatory foods, slowly what starts to happen is the lower layers of these arteries, they start to fall apart. And the thinnest layer, it's called the endothelium. This is the thinnest layer which lines the inside of the artery. It's delicate, and that's where the injury is going to start. Okay, so your endothelium gets damaged by this inflammation. And when that starts to happen, the excessive cholesterol, excessive fat that you have is going to start getting stuck. And now you have a heart attack. Here you have symptoms. Over here you have heart attack and stroke. Because there is no blood going through these arteries here.
Now, okay? The two lower one, one has a little bit of space and the other's totally clogged.
Correct. This is pretty much stroke and heart attack. Ruptured. This is a ruptured plaque. Your plaque, that was formed, is ruptured now. Now it can travel to your lungs, and you can have pulmonary embolism, or it can travel to your brain, and you can have stroke, ischemic stroke.
Wow.
These kind of blood vessels can also break easily. Because remember, the blood vessel, the inside layer, has become very, very delicate. Is very delicate and is now injured. So it's going to tear, and slowly the whole artery and vein is going to get torn apart, and that is your ischemic stroke.
Okay, so this is interesting because, not being a doctor, I always thought, like you said, there's the vessels and then there's the plaque, which comes from cholesterol. And by the way, correct me if I'm wrong, I go up and down the supermarket aisle. I've never seen any vegan product with cholesterol. No vegan product has cholesterol. It's zero cholesterol.
It really depends, because you can make cholesterol, like palm oil, or coconut oil has saturated fat. It doesn't have cholesterol, but it has enough saturated fat in it that it has capability to form that plaque.
Okay, so that's an interesting distinction. But the highest form of cholesterol
from animal
products.
That is given. Yes.
Explain the cholesterol in animal products.
So red meat, Eggs, egg yolk is all cholesterol, right? Milk has plenty of cholesterol. All the animal originated products are going to be high in cholesterol, and specifically cheese is a very what can I say, like a dangerous one, because you are not only concentrating the protein and the fat in cheese, it is also coupled with salt, so it's a perfect storm for heart disease and heart attack, eventual heart attack, and to raise your blood pressure and to gain weight, because now we have concentrated amount of fat sitting on top of salt.
So let me just ask you for a little clarification. We only have a couple of minutes. Stroke. See, I always thought it was the arteries getting clogged, but what you're saying is the arteries get clogged and then they kind of break and pieces of the plaque are going through the bloodstream and hitting your brain?
There are two kinds of stroke. One is ischemic stroke and one is hemorrhagic stroke. Ischemic stroke is where there is not enough blood going through the arteries, taking blood to your brain because they are clogged. Okay, and hemorrhagic stroke is it breaks and you have hemorrhage.
And explain that one a little bit. There's like pieces of plaque flying around the bloodstream.
So many times what happens is, see, before your big arteries get clogged, the smaller arteries start to get clogged first, right? So the arteries which take blood to our eyes and kidneys are called microvascular organs or arteries. These are tiny. They are as thin as this tip of this pen. You know, they are very, very thin arteries, and so they start to clog first, just because they are tiny, they are small. By the way, erectile dysfunction, which affects almost 50% of males in United States. Number one reason is clogged arteries. Okay, so if for nothing else, if somebody decides to go vegan and whole food plant based on top, their sexual health is going to improve significantly.
Well, talk about burying the lead. Here we are at the last 2 minutes of the show. We should do a lead story here. Go ahead. Well, you know what? I have to say, we've got literally 1 minute. I just want to hear your final thought, because I've learned so much with this conversation. We have to have you back and talk more. I mean, we're in a crisis right now, and we've got to do something about it. And there's solutions that you're offering that are tasty, and everybody's loving this show. People are loving this information because, again, you know, 2/3 of Americans have a serious problem. And so, are you looking forward? Last question. Are you looking forward to having a show on Unchained TV?
Oh, I'm absolutely looking forward to have come back here and talk about weight loss and secrets to weight loss and easy strategies, tips and tools that I can share by working with hundreds and thousands of patients suffering with heart disease and diabetes and weight. And I have been doing this for last 18 to 20 years. So I'm super excited to bring my knowledge to all of you, so that we can have a very fulfilling lives ahead of us. And so the take home message is, guys, focus on two things. I call them my F words: fat and fiber. Increase the fiber, decrease the fat.
Wow. What a great way to end the show. And we're so excited to have Deepa, who is going to do a whole series of weight loss shows for Unchained TV. Look for it on our streaming network and download Unchained TV today. Thank you so much, Deepa. I learned so much. We're going to have you back real soon. Everybody loved this show. Have a great day, everybody. See you next time here on Voice America Radio, Unchained TV.